Can a stereo system work at low volume levels? This question comes from John in Houston, Texas. Paul, thank you for your insightful, informational, and humorous videos. I'm not sure how to properly phrase this question, but I was wondering if there were any differences in setting up a 2-channel system for lower listening levels. Is it still possible to hear the same type of clarity and at a significantly lower volume? Thanks, John. Well, that's a tough question because much depends on how big of a room you're trying to fill, whether the monitors are far field, where you have a couch and a setup, or whether the monitors are near field. So if we were to define if we're going to frame your question in a normal setting like this, which is sort of a living room setting here that we have up in the sales area, the answer is no. As the volume goes down, there's not much you can do to these speakers or to your setup to enhance clarity, resolution, full range audio at low levels. It's just, our ears are just not tuned to be able to do that so well. There are things that we can do. For instance, we know, as Fletcher and Munson and the Fletcher-Munson curve has shown us, that as the level goes down, our ear's ability to hear the lows and the highs kind of falls off, according to a curve. So at low listening levels, we don't hear, it seems like, it doesn't, but it seems like the bass and the treble go away. So a loudness control, here's Sprout, but now Sprout doesn't have a loudness control, but if it did, you would have a loudness button, or it might be automatic on the volume control. Then as you played it lower and lower, the bass and the treble would be raised up. The extremes would be tilted up, and then as you turned it louder, they would go back down to flat. That's what a loudness control does. And by its very definition, I mean, we call it a loudness control because it restores that which is missing when you turn the loudness below a certain level. But even with a loudness control, it still is hard for the ear to discern, to separate from the background noise, the music in terms of clarity and detail and all the things you're asking about. So I would have to say no. Now, one of the things that you might consider doing, though, is do near field listening, if you can. So many people have very low levels on their desk or in their near field. And those kinds of systems can be very revealing, can be set up for maximum detail and clarity at very low levels. But the reason is your ear is fairly close to the speaker, okay? So to you sitting there, that level raises up, and to people around you, they don't hear it so much. So it sounds as if it is lower in volume. But volume makes a big difference. And I will touch on one other subject that I've talked about before, but I think it's worth repeating. There is a perfect level for every track in your library. And by perfect, I mean when you play it, everything is within the room and the number of people there, it's at the right level. It's at the level that makes humans the right size, because we know that if we turn it up too loud, we get, instruments and humans get too big, or we can overload the room. And if it's too small, they diminutive, they go down in size. So volume affects image size, and volume also affects the way we perceive the reality to instruments. So if you have a stand-up bass and it's real low and level, you hear this boom, 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 boom. But if it's too loud, it sounds like almost like an electric instrument. So there's a perfect level for every track in our library. And the easy way, I do it by ear, and I have to train people here to try and do it as well. But we do it by just, does it sound real? Does it sound like the person's too big, with a mouth this big, or with a mouth this big? So that has to do with level as well. I hope that helps and answers your question. Okay, thanks. Talk to you tomorrow.